Welcome to the New England and the New York Real Estate Journal podcast. I'm your host, Rick Kaplan, and my guest today is Kyle Dupell, and he's with Erland Construction. Good morning, Kyle.
Morning, Rick. How are you today?
I'm doing great. So, Kyle, tell me about your journey and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, that's a bit of a storied endeavor there. But I started out, I'm originally from upstate New York. So I started out in architecture, designing, building high-end residential homes in the Adirondack State Park. Moved into university, and then eventually international construction management with a local firm, ACCI, out of Marlborough. From there, spent several years working overseas, a few very interesting places, and ultimately came back stateside and continued my career in design, build, construction management, ultimately transitioning into advanced technology and life sciences construction management, and then did a stint in real estate development during this most recent lab boom that we've experienced here in New England. And since then, I've come to call Erland Construction home, where I've been able to leverage my skill set, both architectural, engineering, and real estate, to continue to help Erland to grow into the future. Very exciting.
And that's how you ended up at Erland Construction.
Yes, it is.
A favorite of mine. I've been a big fan of Erland Construction for many years.
Yeah, Erland's been around for 47 years, family owned, operated, now becoming an ESOP, an employee-owned company, and it's there's not a lot of builders left that are, truly have core values that are customer centric, but Erland is one of them, and that's really what brought me to Erland.
Yeah, unfortunately, the industry has changed where has more of a corporate feeling to it, and to be competitive now.
Yeah,
not all the time, but it had that feel out there that if you're not a corporate mentality, you're not going to be able to succeed.
yeah. So somewhere along the line, this industry started to fall out of love with trust-based relationships. And, when that started happening, a lot of people backed into their corners and really started to build very intense contracts, which ultimately led to, fractious relationships. And, at Erland, and there are other construction managers similar to Erland, so I wouldn't say they're the only one, but Erland is still very much so a relationship-based organization, putting trust first. And, that shows in the work that we do and the relationships that we have, and, why Erland's been around for as long as they have been.
And unfortunately, trust and loyalty has been abused for so many years that a lot of people have given up on it. That's an unfortunate thing.
Yeah, it is. Not every project is easy. And in fact, I like to think that construction and real estate is really controlled chaos, honestly. And so there are times where people have segregated instead of coming shoulder to shoulder. And, that's, I think, started to lead to some of the divide that you've spoken to here.
Well, that being said, let's move on to what's going on right now, and that's the technology. Especially now with life science and the research and development labs that they're building. You kind of found that niche where you really can identify what is needed for those type of projects.
Yeah, I mean, Massachusetts has been one of the top research and development markets and really ecosystems for many years. Massachusetts many years ago made a decision to begin to subsidize it, which they did through state funding grants, and that really established a baseline of incubators and professionals. And when you sort of combine that with all of the hospitals and the higher education here, it really grew a robust ecosystem. And, I would say for the past 10 years, a lot of construction managers, real estate professionals, architects, engineers, private equity, venture capital have been enjoying the fruits of those labors with a lot of research and development, work happening here in Massachusetts. I think with everything that happened during the pandemic and the Fed sort of injecting a lot of money into the economy, it maybe took what was a really healthy growth and maybe turned it into a bit of a bubble. We're trending towards 11 million square feet of research and development BSL2 lab space here in the state, and absorption's down to about 1 million square feet a year, and 5 million of it spoken for. So there's going to be, as you can read in most articles, a lot of vacancy for a while. But there's that ecosystem. It built such a robust group of professionals that needed to service it, and now with the Haley administration almost repeating the same formula and subsidizing this now advanced technology research and development ecosystem, you're starting to see almost a repurposing of a lot of those professionals and their capabilities and their mindsets, and everybody's starting to ask the question of how do we the royal we, how do we prepare for this growing advanced technology R&D hopefully boom coming, and what's different, what's the same, can we reutilize any of the infrastructure both built and intellectually available. And so here at Erland, anyways, we spent probably about the past year. We brought on several analysts and really started to boil down the market and understand it from a maybe a developer's perspective, venture capital perspective, to try to position ourselves so we can answer that question as it continues to bubble up to the surface.
Now, is there anyone that you have in your organization beside yourself that has dealt with a lot of this new technology and that has worked in the implementation of it?
Yeah, actually, it's sort of interesting. Before the research and development BSL2 lab boom, there is a very healthy ecosystem of semiconductor here in Massachusetts. Not the actual chip manufacturing, but all the subsidiary manufacturing of the raw materials, of the machining parts, of the IP design and engineering. And Erland, even prior to the research and development lab boom, did quite a bit of that work. So Erland's science and technology vertical, which I'm a part of, is actually founded in semiconductor and cGMP manufacturing and a lot of these other very technical types of manufacturing that we have here in Massachusetts. And I think one of the things that I hope that Massachusetts sort of remembers or reminds himself of is even before the research and development expansion for lab space, Massachusetts was a technical market for manufacturing. You can look on Dun and Bradstreet and you can see all the manufacturing that's happening here in Massachusetts and the research and development associated with it. And GE's here. There's a dozen other. Bose is here. There's a lot of other organizations, and so Erland actually started there. Obviously, transitioned to the BSL2 research and development market, but that's why we've been able to focus and pivot so quickly to the advanced technology market, because some of it we've actually already done it many, many years ago before it was as widely known as it is now.
Now, in the Northeast, it seems to me that Massachusetts is almost a hub for a lot of these companies. Uh, and they kind of have these branches that are going out towards like Western Mass, uh, New Hampshire,
Yeah.
places like that, which is great for you because now that gives you a even larger market to work with. You can be doing projects in the Worcester, Springfield, those areas, as well as Manchester, Nashua, and from looking at all those different projects that are going on right now in those areas, they seem to come all together into the uh, Massachusetts market. I shouldn't say Massachusetts. I should say like the greater Boston area.
Yeah, it's really interesting if you sort of just think about the life cycle of, an organization, right? So if it's true, which it is, that Massachusetts is a research and development hub, that means you have sort of the intellectual knowledge being birthed here. And then these folks naturally, they develop lives. Maybe they get married or have a significant other. They start to establish their lives, and they want to ideally, as their company grows, stay locally, right? So that's where you start to see there's a lot of research and development happening in, Cambridge, Boston, out to, Watertown, Waltham, and then the real heavy manufacturing component starts to sort of radiate out further where land prices are a little more, appealing, and, maybe different craft and trade professionals are a little more available. So you can almost see sort of this epicenter of knowledge, and then as it moves out, it matures into built product. And that's one of the things that I think Massachusetts is really focusing on is, we have the R&D down. That's here. The educational systems are here. The hospitals are here. Venture capital is here. People are flocking to this state. But the question that I think Massachusetts is trying very hard to answer is, how do we keep the next stage also? How do we prevent these companies from maybe going to North Carolina or Pennsylvania? And there's some state subsidies associated with that, which is really beneficial. So I suspect what we'll see over the course of the next 5 or 6 years is sort of a further bolstering of that sort of kind of back end manufacturing. Get the full life cycle, right? Start with research and development, then you move to maybe step out space, and then ultimately your manufacturing facility stays here in Massachusetts, which is really quite ideal for the local economy.
Well, they all seem to want to be in the same area where their competitors are.
Yeah,
And that's what the look it has.
yeah.
Is
Well,
that
that's
true?
yeah, and it's a competition for resources, right? Not material resources, but intellectual resources, right? So again, Massachusetts has done a very, very good job in investing in its higher education and even earlier on education, right? Because of that, there's a very high degree of intellectual capital here in the state. So these companies, they're competing with each other, right? So maybe XYZ company develops a widget. Well, how do you develop the next best widget? Well, you need to have a better team, a more innovative team. Where do you get more innovative people? You get them from educational epicenters. And so that is part of the challenge for some of these organizations. And many of the clients we work with, they say, well, our research and development is here. We want to be within driving distance of our manufacturing. Where do we go? How do we accomplish that, right? And that's where we start to bring in our collab program to look at different facilities for them. We'll work with different brokerages, we'll work with different developers, and we'll sort of help knit these relationships together to help these organizations kind of find their next evolution of space that works, for their business. So, Erland, our program here really endeavors to become more than just a construction manager. And it's kind of saying a lot. Construction management is quite challenging in and of itself, but the idea is we want to also extend ourselves and help organizations grow and mature and, ideally stay locally, right? We're a local company. All of our employees are local. We'd like to continue to help people reinvest in and stay here in the state if possible.
Now, we have a lot of vacant office. Well, it's starting to come down.
Yeah,
We had a lot of office space available, and warehouse and our industrial spaces have been pretty pretty well doing pretty well for a number
yeah,
of years. But uh, with the office space, I do see some research and development companies looking at taking those office space and converting it to lab
yeah,
space. Is
yep.
that something that you think that's going to be a very popular thing going forward?
Well, over the past 7 or so years, and I'd say really probably in the past five, to put more of a fine point on it, there was actually quite a bit of purchasing a Class A or Class B office facility, 4 stories or less, maybe 5 stories, and converting that or repurposing it to a research and development facility for these BSL2 laboratory users. And that's really kind of how we ended up a mixture of that and purpose-built research and development facilities. Is how we're ending up trending towards 11 million square feet of assets that sort of fall into that category. The challenge is there's not enough demand right now to really continue that type of development at the degree it's been occurring over the past several years. So that sort of development, well, yes, it is still very viable, is starting to slow down pretty drastically. I'd say maybe almost stop. There's more of organizations that are interested in having a research and development, namely developers, research and development part of their portfolio, acquiring some of those already converted assets. But what I suspect we will see is a new type of conversion. So say the same, office buildings that are a little tired, but now being converted for advanced technology use. And the real difference here is a BSL2 research and development facility. When you consider acquisition costs, the cost to actually warm up the facility, all the specialty infrastructure, you could be anywhere from $1,500 to $2,200 a square foot on the basis, right? Which is what really triggers the need for much higher rents, $70, $80 rents, right? If there's not a demand for it, then and there's an oversupply, that development starts to slow down, if not stop. The advanced technology facility, it wants to take the same building, 2 floor, maybe 3 floor office building, ideally suburban market, but it doesn't have the same basis. It costs far, far less to transform one of these office buildings into an advanced technology facility. And what that really is about is most advanced technology users do not have the same level of HVAC requirements for a facility. So BSL2, biosafety level 2 research and development facilities have considerable air requirements, a lot of air exchanges, which when you're heating and cooling air frequently, a lot of energy absorption, high power requirements, etc. These advanced technology users don't really need that. On an occasion, they may need something specific that can be deployed locally, but what they really need is a large amount of power, anywhere from 28 to 32 watts per square foot. And they need pretty generous floor to floor heights, which can, be resolved by maybe removing a few bays. All that to say, the basis is about a third for one of these advanced technology facilities as it was for a research and development facility. Same building type, you're starting at the same place, but the cost is fractional. Now, the other side of this is the rents that these advanced technology users are able to afford are slightly different as well. They're quite a bit lower, and that's really tied to the end product. If uh, biosafety level 2 research and development user, let's say, discovered the next Advil. I don't know about you, but I think we've all been taking Advil and penicillin for a very, very long time. So the ROI on those products is considerable, meaning the VC investment was considerable, meaning the rents can be paid at that high price. Some of the advanced technology users, they're not making drugs to treat the human body. A lot of them are building a widget, right? That is, only protected for a certain number of years until their competitors can come up with the next best version of it, right? So the time horizon payback for the product is much lower, meaning the VC funding is quite a bit less.
Now, you hit on a very touchy subject in some areas, and that is utilities. Uh,
Yes.
the energy needed for a lot of these places. And uh, I know getting some of that work done in the cities is very challenging, because you have to add more, more power and more electricity going through to the properties and more water and sewer, all the things that go with that. Is that another benefit to doing uh, a, a repurposing of a project or a property in the suburbs as opposed to in the
Yeah.
city,
So
or even building a new, ground up?
yeah, and that's a very interesting question. That's actually something we've been tackling, and we're currently doing it with 3 different clients right now. So the the best case scenario, if you're an advanced technology user, or if you're a developer looking to develop one of these facilities, or what have you, is that you find a facility that already has the power there. That you don't have to upgrade it. Now there's uh, relatively rigorous process that we at Erland will bring clients through, or run one of the sites through, and we'll do site studies and utility scale studies to try to answer the question of, okay, this one has enough power, this one doesn't, and this one is really probably not one you should even consider, because the idea is reutilization, right? There is not yet in the market a stratification based on available power day one for people that are looking to acquire facilities. I suspect that will occur within the next maybe 12 to 24 months. So today there is an opportunity to acquire facilities in the suburban market that already have enough power. So if you can find that, great. No issue. It's there. The grid is ready for it. You can just continue to go develop. You can bring in your advanced technology users. If you're acquire a facility, or you're going to go to a facility, if you were a tenant and there's not adequate power, then it is a bit of a challenge to increase power. Not actually so much from a cost perspective, but really from a timing perspective, working with the local municipalities and the energy companies can be challenging. We saw a lot of that through COVID, right? We saw delays in transformers and switchgear, and we all have many, many scars from that. I know I've got a handful myself, honestly. But that has gotten better. Eversource has opened up several new manufacturing locations for transformers, so that has gotten slightly better. But I think the real question is, if this advanced technology research and development uh, sort of trajectory takes the same bent as the lab research and development, how are we going to have enough power in the state? And I know there's been a lot of conversations between local government and some of the larger utilities of how that's answered. And you can actually see sprinkled throughout the state. There's many studies right now of utility scale batteries, which sort of refeeds the research and development market, because we have a lot of battery research and development, solid state and otherwise, here in Massachusetts. So a lot of it's being deployed. There's some conversation about very small nuclear solutions, pocket nuclear, if you will, uh, here in Massachusetts. I'm going to be interested to see how that plays out locally, but there are now many companies that are trying to answer that exact question. It's useful here, but it's also useful globally, going back to the research and development market. I mean, when COVID occurred, right? Where were most of the vaccines discovered? Here in Massachusetts, right? I think one of the next big problems that our, nation and maybe even world is trying to answer is power and energy. I suspect some of those solutions, if not the majority of them, will be discovered here in Massachusetts during this advanced technology research and development growth. I think it's going to be a very interesting 4 or 5 years for sure.
Kyle, before we go, do you see certain areas that there's going to be a little more growth for the research and development in the life science industry in Massachusetts? We'll start with Massachusetts because we
Sure.
know that
Yeah.
it's gonna go everywhere, but
Well, what we're seeing right now, and I'll talk about advanced technology just for a moment. We're really seeing sort of Watertown and west, moving out towards Worcester, and then some of that occurring in Worcester. We're also seeing it move up towards New Hampshire and some of it into New Hampshire. And then we're seeing some of it move south, not quite as far as Foxborough, but a little bit south. It tends to not be occurring as much in Cambridge and Boston and Watertown and Somerville, primarily because a lot of that real estate was consumed and converted to lab research and development, which is a different rent strata than what the advanced technology groups are able to afford at this point in time. So I think you're going to see a lot of growth in what I would call the suburban market. I know we're seeing a lot of it now. The Middlesex 3 Coalition is really a group to keep an eye out for. They've really quantified this and are focusing on it pretty heavily and starting to have conversations of how do they answer this growth that's occurring in that region. So Burlington, Billerica, Lowell, and then the lab research and development. That's still very city centric. Cambridge, Watertown, some of it in Somerville, but again, there's just not as much of a demand. As it's still healthy. It's 1 million square feet of demand a year is not nothing. So I think you're going to sort of see this almost urban, little bit suburban lab research and development BSL2, and then urban advanced technology research and development market start to develop.
well, I like the plug for the Middlesex 3 Coalition.
Great
They're,
group, a lot
they're
of
my
confidence.
favorite. I love them.
They are quite fantastic, really.
But before, I know I said before we go, I have that one question, but I have another question
Yeah, that's
that
fine.
just came into my head. And before we go, I want to ask you about it. I hear a lot about the cold storage because when you have life science and research and development, now you need cold storage warehousing.
Yes.
Uh, I don't know how much of that is going on in New England, but from what I understand, it's starting to have a big growth in the last
Yeah,
2 years.
there are uh, at least 3 companies that I know of right now that are starting to trend into that market. And cold storage, when they say cold storage, so people might get the image of, giant blocks of ice and, vapors kind of coming off of it. What it actually is it's almost a farm of freezers. And these are commercial grade, -80 pharmaceutical grade freezers where the biotech industry, if they're relocating or if they need to just simply store active science, they can rent space or rent a freezer for some period of time. And we know of a couple of those facilities that are starting to go through design and engineering and are planned to be constructed in 2026 in the suburban market. I don't know of too many in the urban market at the moment, but it is definitely something that is sort of developed because of the volume of sustained research and development, particularly in the biotech side of research and development in Massachusetts. And it is going to be very interesting to see how these facilities sort of roll out and then start to try to compete with each other.
Well, I think that's all the questions I have now.
Well,
So,
I
Kyle,
appreciate it.
well, first of all, Erland is a great company. They've been around for a long time and a gigantic supporter for many, many years with the New England Real Estate Journal. So we appreciate their support. And before we go, let's the website is, I'll let you say it.
It's www.erland.com.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
what I thought, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
might as well get it from the horse's mouth.
Of course. Of
Yeah.
course. Of course. Yes.
So
And you can find
if
all
someone
the,
if someone want to get a hold of you, they just go to that website and they can probably
yes,
identify who you are
absolutely.
and Kyle Dupell, if
Yep.
everyone's listening, and
Yep.
they can look it up and you can help them with a future project
Of
or
course.
something that they are just tossing around right now, and they might
Yeah.
want to look at a certain area.
Yeah.
So please do contact Kyle at Erland Construction. And I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah.
It really is a great conversation because it's very current and it's a lot going on in this New England market.
It is. I personally am very excited for the next 5 years. I think if we can look back on history and see what happened during the biotech research and development boom, I suspect history, maybe not to the same degree, but even if it's a fraction of it, repeats itself, it'll be very good for the state of Massachusetts. And I think it has us on a really solid footing for a healthy, decade here.
Well, it sounds like it's a plan for 2025.
That is the plan, my friend. As much advanced technology as we can get.
That's right. Well,
Absolutely.
it's been changing for many years, so the
Yeah.
technology is in the boom.
Yep. It's not going anywhere, that's for sure.
Well, I want to thank you, Kyle. We was talking with Kyle Dupell, and he's with Erland Construction. And I want to thank you again, Kyle. And until next time, you're listening to the New England Real Estate Journal and the New York Real Estate Journal podcast, and I'm Rick Kaplan. Till next time.